Hey, welcome to this solar activity and propagation report number 14. It is a day late. We are September 12th, 2014, and usually it is on Thursdays, but we had a little problem yesterday. First of all, for all of those that wanted to check for the Google Hangout video, I was unable to make the video because I had a little problem with my health this week and had to go to the doctor's office and finally had to go to some tests in the hospital. And so I was unable to make the Google Hangout because of that. And also unable to do the propagation report on Thursday as usual. But starting next week, propagation report will come back on Thursdays as usual. So sorry for anyone that wanted to watch the hangout, but the next hangout that is scheduled for next Saturday will of course be there for sure. So sorry for everyone that wanted to watch live. So lots of activity this week and really a lot of stuff happening. So first of all, we had two solar flares, one an M flare and then a very powerful X flare that happened in pretty much 2 days in a row, and that really messed up propagation this week. I did listen to shortwave on Wednesday afternoon a little bit and noticed that there was just no signals there. And I was listening at about 1800 UTC. And when I noticed there was no signals, I knew something was fishy. So I checked space weather, and behold, they were explaining that a X flare actually had been detected on the sun from sunspot 2158. 2158 is right smack in the middle of the solar disk right here. And what's happening is that this flare is directly Earth directed. It was in the perfect position for sending all its energy towards Earth. So what that means is that first of all, we had a lot of activity. Sorry here, space weather seems to have a lot of problems in the past 2 days. I'm unable to get it really well. All other sites work well, but space weather seems to be sluggish. I don't know if it's because of an increase in visitors, but so there was a lot of shortwave blackouts due to the flares. So that's the first thing. And also now we are getting into very stormy geomagnetic conditions. So first of all, one impact yesterday, we had the impact of the first of the two flares, which was an M flare, which are medium in power, but still very powerful. And it created a G1 geomagnetic storm. And actually people last night, Thursday night, were seeing some auroras even in the northern United States. So it shows you that the G1 storm did do some auroras. But what we are waiting for is another one. The X flare sent a lot of particles, and that one should arrive sometime today, September 12th. And we are expecting it to really trigger very strong geomagnetic storms. So if we had a G1 and the K index here you see rose to 5, that other flare will probably make that K index go much higher, 6, 7, 8. So wherever you are, if you are in the, I'd say 40 degrees north or more, why not take a peek at the skies during your late hours evening and check towards north to see for yourself. Maybe you could see aurora borealis. Now, if you're in a big city like here in Montreal, they are difficult to see because the sky is just so bright because of all the lights. But when they get strong, they usually are so bright that they actually can be seen. So that's something to check for if your sky is clear and you are in the evening, why not take a peek from time to time? One of the best places to check also is either solarham.net or dx.qsl.net. Check for propagation. Check your K index. And if you see it rising a lot, then there's a really, really big possibility that you might actually have some aurora borealis around you. So a K index of 5 or higher, it's worth checking towards the north. Sometimes they are, if you're in a big city, sometimes they're faint, but when you really look closely, you can kind of make out the greenish tint towards the north. So, and maybe they'll be really strong. They expected to reach, for an example, yesterday's geomagnetic storm reached G1. What they are expecting, what NASA is expecting actually, is that the geomagnetic storms could reach G3. That's starting to get a pretty big geomagnetic storm. Magnetic storms go from G1 to G5, G5 being the worst you can have. G3 is actually very strong, so I wouldn't be surprised we could see it in a big city. But what will that do is that this weekend's propagation will probably be really bad. With geomagnetic storms reaching really high, I expect that this weekend we won't have that great of propagation. But that said, geomagnetic storms also mean that it's a great time to chase that north-south DX that you might not hear usually. You'll probably notice that every signal east or west, for example in North America, anything from Europe, might not come in very well. But you might notice that there's an increase in signals from Central and South America. If you're in Europe, you might see that signals from Africa will actually be stronger than usual. So take a listen, because it doesn't mean the bands are dead. Usually means the bands have shifted in activity towards a different area, usually to the south or north of your position. So expect the next few days to be really, really unsettled and in propagation conditions. And if there aren't any other flares, then next week we could see a slowly quiet trend. So we'll have, the K index slowly go down into Monday, Tuesday. But that said, this 2158 sunspot is actually very active, so it could still flare again, and that wouldn't surprise me. If we could take a peek here at 2158, look how big its structure is. You can see that it's a very, very big sunspot here, and here's the detail of it. And so you can see that that is quite a strong flare. So with all the sunspots also right now on the solar disk, we see that the solar flux is hanging around 150, and I expect it to stay at around 150, maybe even rise a little bit in the next few days, and pretty much up to next week's solar propagation report. So at least we have high solar flux. The only thing that will really, really change our propagation is the incoming, the solar disturbances and the solar flares. Here we have the percentage of flare probabilities, and we see that 2158 is 65% chance of M flares and 40% chance of X flares. So we are still in a possibility of having very strong flares coming up. So take a peek at that. And of course, take a peek at the K index. Make sure that you check it out. If you see that we are in storming, and that we have, especially here, if you look at the solarham.net website, there's a little chart on the left that says 3-day geomagnetic forecast, and it says storming. September 12th, it says that we might have a K index of 6 and G2 stormings, and we might have on September 13th and G3 and K index of 7. So these are strong. and that means that geomagnetic storms with visible auroras quite far from the poles are probable. So take a peek, and hey, let me know if you ever see auroras this weekend. I think it's a great time, and September is also a great time for that for a reason. It's not quite understood why, but September, October, and also March and April are two periods where the effect of solar storms are maximized, because the way Earth is positioned in space actually increases the influx of the solar particles. So that's pretty much the propagation report. We had lots of solar blackouts in the past week, so if you turned on the radio and heard nothing, don't be surprised. And we will have a few days of unsettled conditions in the next few days, so that's also something to check for. And hopefully, for propagation, the solar flares will relax a little bit, and we might have actually better propagation next week. So hope you enjoyed the reports. Sorry once again for the Google Hangout. That was impossible for me yesterday, and hope to see you next week for the Google Hangout on Saturday evening. And I will be posting a little bit more radio videos also, because I've been a little bit quiet on the radio videos in the past 2 weeks because of work. I had a lot of work, and also with a little health problem here. Nothing bad, just a little health problem. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again on the official Shortwave channel. Bye-bye.